Thanks, President. My agenda matter is for the attention of the Attorney-General and it relates to the involvement of courts in considering incarceration programs as part of sentencing. However, as it relates to prisons, there may be some crossover with the Minister for Corrections Office as well. One of the key policy areas of Darren Hitch's Justice Party is reform of sentencing laws, and that doesn't necessarily mean giving longer sentences to offenders in a punitive sense, but it does mean looking at ways to improve sentencing for our offenders to achieve better outcomes. In my humble opinion, Victoria has some work to do. A fundamental flaw in the way we hand down sentences is that there's no consideration by a judge or magistrate around which prison the offender might go to. If imprisonment is determined as the best sanction, the decision of where that person will be sent to rests solely with Corrections Victoria. Obviously, corrections hold the information about which prisons are at capacity and which prisons are the right security level in respect of that offender, but these considerations come after the sentence is decided. Paraphrasing the words of a senior corrections staff member, I know, quote, "I don't consider myself an advocate for harsher sentencing, but it is a problem that some people don't have access to programs when they get here," unquote. They had just finished giving an example of where someone who had been found guilty of an aggravated offence could be sentenced to, say, 6 or 7 months in prison. They might then end up at a prison which has a 9-month intensive anger management course. Given there's no legislative power to keep that person in prison for 2 months longer, they'd reluctantly be sent to a prison with no access to any relevant programs to curb their behaviour. It's just unbelievable that a magistrate could sentence someone to an arbitrary sentence of imprisonment without factoring any sort of rehabilitative service or access at all. In my mind, and in the mind of the community, despite prison being a type of punishment, there's also an expectation that a person will come out having completed rehab in some form. In terms of a solution, I'd be interested in understanding how Corrections Victoria could play a part in providing regular advice to the courts about what programs are available and where. Defence lawyers and the public prosecutions could also submit their case in relation to where the offender is best suited to serve their incarceration. As we know, our recidivism rate is high, and so if we can address the causal factors of offending while someone is in prison, there's less a chance of offending once they're released, and that importantly means less victims. The action that I seek from the Minister is to provide advice around what the government plans to do to ensure that when an offender is sentenced to imprisonment, their needs and access to relevant programs are considered as part of the sentence being handed down.